Okay, so I have been trying to stress to you that we are kind of barreling toward a society of make-believe. It's very scary. Actually, if you just pause for a second and consider it, it's very strange that they're trying to see if they can sort of force us to believe things that are just not so. And they become angry and they become insistent and they spend more money and they're just getting influencers that go out there and I felt this way, by the way, when the transgender thing was happening. I was very vocal against this. It's like there's a difference between a woman and a man, and they just kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And it's like, you can, wear the clothes that you want to wear and feel how you feel, but there is such a thing as reality, okay? And now we've moved away from that becoming a social issue, and it was always, obviously political, but we're starting to see this in politics. We're starting to see them. And that, of course, is the example with Dr. Kirk and her entire background, which makes no sense, where the entire world notices that this is what the Erica Kirk story feels like. It feels to me, if you're a conservative, like it felt when we were going through the transgenderism argument, where we all know that this is not right. So maybe some people are pretending to be nice. It's actually a perfect analogy here. A lot of people who I know who initially were like, yeah, let's support transgenderism. It's not because they believed it. They just were like, it's just nice. It's the nice thing to do, right? I would say a lot of lefties found themselves in that category. That person feels that way, let them feel that way. And it's the same thing with the Erica Kirk story, where they're just ignoring the facts. They're ignoring all the lies. And they're just like, well, it's just nice because her husband died that we shouldn't even consider whether or not she's lying about things or whether or not she's helping to cover up certain things that would help us solve the mystery of how her husband died. And she's not acting right. She's not acting like a grieving widow. I'm going to give you another example of this, like recently. This Nick Shirley guy, this thing that is going on, okay? It's now getting weird enough that I do feel the need to comment and weigh in. I didn't even know that this was a beef that I accidentally stumbled upon, that people were saying like the term that they use here is fed jacketed. Like essentially he's being created by the media. There are a lot of people that are like that. I would say Barry Weiss is a perfect example. Like we all know she's not qualified to be an executive at CBS. They just don't care. They're just, there you go, Barry Weiss. And this Nick Shirley thing is one of the weirdest non-beefs that I have ever had. So I'm going to back up here and say, I did not follow at all the quote unquote rise of Nick Shirley. He's 24 years old. It was, if I recall, like very quickly after the Charlie Kirk assassination. He was sort of introduced first on the Charlie Kirk show on the day he died. Remember, we covered that. That's the reason I covered him on the show on September 10th when I was trying to work through timelines and I made a mistake. And I completely owned that mistake and had a conversation with him. Right after the Charlie Kirk assassination, suddenly I was not emotionally available to look at other topics, to cover other topics. I was not interested in other trends. And suddenly we have this kid, 23 years old, I think he was last year. And they say Nick Shirley has uncovered massive welfare fraud in the Somalian community in Minnesota. Okay, a friend of mine just got shot in the neck. Don't really care to follow the story. Daycare fraud. Great, thumbs up. Did not peek beyond that at all. I want to be perfectly clear here. I did not watch or read even 1 minute of what he uncovered. So color me completely ignorant of the welfare fraud story in Somalia. Just being honest with you, I didn't have it in me then, and I just truly did not care. Okay. So then fast forward to me mentioning Nick Shirley on the show, and I was like, okay, who is this guy? And I was quite stunned that there was this video out there of him saying that he infiltrated the most dangerous gang in Brazil in 48 hours. Like, that's so objectively stupid and ignorant. You have to be so ignorant to even believe it. That should just be a headline that your brain automatically rejects, right? A 23-year-old kid, absent any connections, infiltrated a gang in 48 hours is like they are trying you right now. They're not even trying to give us like good slop anymore. Like we're beneath the level of Fed slop with this, right? It's just stupid. It's nothing personal, Nick Shirley. It's just dumb when you hear it, that a person infiltrate a 23-year-old kid, and I did say a white boy for a reason, which I will explain, infiltrated the most dangerous gang in Brazil by himself with cameras. Okay. Anyway, Nick Shirley, after I said this on my show, the next day it was like trending, and all of these people, the people I trust the least, by the way, I mean, like Tim Pool, everyone's like writing these statements like Nick Shirley got punched in the face by me, because I'm not an idiot. I don't have to look deeper into that story. It's obviously objectively on its face untrue and made up. I don't know if it's for entertainment. I don't know if it's for funsies. I don't know the purpose of making up something like that. I've just lived a little bit of life and know that that's not how it works. And so PBD, who has just been sort of taking swipes at me for like since Charlie Kirk died, you know, he notoriously hosted the person who said, I didn't speak to Charlie since, 2019. We hadn't spoken. We were at war with each other, whatever. I don't care. It's just add it to the pile of people who are constantly just making little snide comments on me. But Nick PBD, who was one of the people who issued a kind statement about Nick Shirley because, gasp, Candance doesn't believe that he infiltrated a gang in 48 hours, hosted him on his show. And they show the clip of what I said, and PBD's pretending he had no idea. He completely already knew I said this. Even the whole little scene you're going to watch between them is just so contrived. It just bothers me on a level of, why do we have to live in this soap opera? Why are we all sim characters? Who is pulling the strings? Anyway, I want you to listen to this conversation that they have.
Who in the market is supporting you? Who in the market is criticizing you that you're surprised on the conservative side? Are there people who are like, Nick, go, you're doing great? And then there's people that are like, yeah, I don't know if I like what he's doing.
Candance Owens came after me.
He sounded excited, Candance.
That was very interesting.
Why would Candance Owens come after you?
I don't know. She like didn't believe my Brazilian favela video, and
it's not even so you're talking. This is a couple years ago.
No, this is like recent. She's like, white boy. I'm like, it was very like snarky of her to do this.
Interesting. This is it.
Yeah.
But which video is
stupid.
that? Is that a recent video?
From last summer.
I'm just going to say I don't believe that at all. I'm sorry. I just, it's so stupid. I'm not even going to tell you why I don't believe it. It's like if you don't know that that's stupid, that he infiltrated the gang in 48 hours. That's so dumb. I'm so tired of dumb. That's not how that works, okay? You don't just go up to gangs on the street as a nice-looking white boy with the camera and say, hey, I just wanted to sort of like see what you're doing here. What's going on? Okay, that's just stop. That's stupid. Of course, that's dumb.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Nick. I know you're young. I hope, whoever is your contact that has you infiltrating Antifa and infiltrating El Salvador at the age of 23 years old, it just feels like Sean Penn young to me.
Meaning
like,
your handler, or you're representing somebody?
Like, she's basically saying that's fake.
She's saying that's fake.
And I'm like, well, maybe if these podcasters would actually leave their podcast studios. No offense, Pat.
Now, do I believe that? I don't know, because I really didn't get to watch the thing with Nick in Cuba or whatever. But stick around. I have a very much of a delight for you, because other people did.
They leave their podcast studios and go and like do journalism. Like they'd actually see like stuff just sometimes just happens.
It was that last part that really sent me, because it's just so LOL. And then this whole like, oh, why don't you try to do real journalism and like leave your basement from podcasting? Alex Clark kind of backed this up too, because like she can't miss an opportunity. Turning Point can't miss an opportunity, because I think I took from them what they believe is rightfully theirs. But she wrote this: Nick Shirley is a real journalist. Candance Owens is not. Oh, okay. So we're in a podcast. We're in the basement. Hey, Nick. So the reason why we know that doesn't make sense actually is because you have to be the most sheltered person in the world to even have to need it to be explained to you why that's not plausible. Okay. It's not a job. Okay. People just live in these scenarios. People like literally, I have 5-year-olds in my family who have seen more and lived through more than you've probably ever lived through in your life. The circumstance itself did not happen. And I cannot tell you how much it frustrates me that you're pretending that I'm coming from a position of privilege. 5-year-olds in my family who have seen more and lived through more than you've probably ever lived through in your life. The circumstance itself did not happen. And I cannot tell you how much it frustrates me that you're pretending that I'm coming from a position of privilege when it's actually the exact opposite. You couldn't do this in Chicago. You couldn't do this in Detroit. Forget in a favela in Brazil. Places like that, which I have Brazilians in my family, you don't even go to parts in Brazil without having someone who is from that place and from that neighborhood. So no, it's not about podcasting in my basement. I actually lived a lot of life, Nick Shirley, before I got to podcasting in my basement, before I was married, before I had children. In fact, I moved down to South America for 2 months to learn Spanish with very strict instructions. The school that I enrolled in, don't wear any jewelry, don't wear any makeup, don't look American. You don't just go down there.
So as you can see for yourself, Candance, hold on, y'all. I forgot. I'm trying to think. So as you can see for yourself, Candance, has this, hey, they own it. So, as doing research for today's thing or whatever, it's what we're doing right now. Let's go. Hold on. Let's go to find this. All right. So check out. So I went over to the Talk Streaks, right? Over there to go see what was going on over there. So people have stuff to say about Nick over there.
So Nick Shirley went to Cuba and did what he does best. He pretended to be a journalist by sharing stories that only the most gullible will believe. Oh, and in doing so, he may have violated federal law. Because according to reports, Nick stayed at a hotel called the Hotel Nacional de Cuba that you see behind me, but the problem is that the hotel is on the Department of State's Cuba Prohibited Accommodation List, or CPAL, which is a fairly extensive list of hotels in Cuba that U.S. citizens are not allowed to lodge at. And that list is not a suggestion because it stems from this memorandum, which was authorized by President Trump in 2025. In other words, even if you're allowed to travel to Cuba, the federal government has a list of businesses you cannot give your money to and hotels you cannot stay at. And if you do, then you're violating federal law. Of course, it's possible that Nick Shirley didn't stay at that hotel, but if he did, then Nick might be in trouble. Probably not in trouble with the current administration, but the statute of limitation for this conduct is 5 years. So you do the math. Oh, and what's the penalty, you ask? If Nick didn't know the hotel was off limits, it's only a civil infraction punishable with a fine of up to $356,000. But if he knew, then it becomes criminal conduct, and that's punishable with a fine of up to $1 million or up to 20 years in prison or both. I gotta say, I find it fascinating that a person who spends most of his time complaining about foreigners coming into our country to break the law is now being applauded by other people who spend their time complaining about foreigners coming into our country to break the law for going into another country as a foreigner and breaking the law. But then again, we're talking about a group of people that's not famous for common sense.
So Nick Shirley, the right-wing influencer, says that he's being held hostage in a hotel in Cuba. Well, guess what? We found the hotel. It's right here, Hotel Nacional. And it's actually illegal for him to be at this hotel, but not illegal under Cuban law. It's illegal under U.S. law. Let me show you how we know it's a hotel. All right, if you look at the tweet and the video that he posted, that's the room he's staying in, pretty much, right? Red curtains. This is the Hotel Nacional website. You can pretty much you can't stay in this hotel legally as a U.S. citizen according to U.S. law. Cubans welcome you here, but the U.S. does not want you staying at this hotel or pretty much any other hotel all over Cuba. There is such a thing as there is something called the Cuba Prohibited Accommodations List. Here it is right here, Cuba Prohibited Accommodations List. Below is the U.S. Department of State's Cuba Prohibited Accommodations List, a list of properties in Cuba at which the Cuban assets control regulations generally prohibit persons subject to U.S. jurisdiction from lodging, paying for lodging, or making any reservation for or on behalf of a third party to lodge. It's not just this hotel either. Look at all the hotels. I mean, dozens upon dozens, pretty much every hotel in Cuba. We just went in the lobby. Things are calm. There's no security. Everyone, this seems like a normal day like any other. My guess is Shirley's not even here anymore. And there's really no evidence. There's no reason to believe that he would be in any risk at all here in Cuba. There's no U.S. journalist or influencer in jail in Cuba. I've been here for 6-7 years. I've never heard of that occurring. But Shirley would be at risk in the United States because he's violating U.S. law. Chances are nothing will happen to him because he, from what I know, is very friendly with the current administration. If somebody else were to stay here, they might be in trouble. That's why I never stay here. Nick Shirley, in my opinion, pretending to be kidnapped in Cuba will be the funniest thing you've seen all day. Roll the clip.
Long story short, we had Cuban intelligence following us all around in our one day here in Cuba, and now we have made it out. We're heading to the airport right now. If this video gets posted, it means that we made it back to the United States. It's been the most crazy 24 hours of my life.
What was he thinking? So he wanted to go to Cuba because he wanted to talk to the Cubans about communism. Cuba is in an economic downfall because they're no longer getting fuel from Venezuela. So they are basically in a blackout right now. No power. Everything is falling apart in Cuba. And Nick here thought it was a good idea to go down there and talk to the Cubans about communism. So now they might kidnap him, he's saying. Oh well. Oh well, Nick. Let's just say it wasn't one of your brightest ideas. So now Nick has made it to his hotel. Notice there's power at this hotel, which kind of makes me question a couple things. Cuba has no power. How is there power here? Well, maybe it's a generator. I don't know. But let's see what Nick has to say now that he's made it at his hotel. Let's listen.
Anyways, we're filming this video, and when we're next to the hospital, we see undercover cop roll up on us, and my security guards that are with me, they detected him, and then all of a sudden there's another one. So we hopped back in another taxi, we left the scene, and we thought we were good. They didn't tell us, and we left. But since we left the airport, we had been getting tailed, or the word had gotten out that there was a journalist inside of Cuba. There's only 2 flights that come in here every single day. So it wasn't hard to spot out who the journalist was, and that's what my tourist visa said. That's what my visa said. It said for journalistic activities.
You just said journalistic activities.
So you can come here. There's 12 categories in which you can come, and journalist activities is one of those. So therefore, that is why I came. And right now, it is currently 9:30, and we have Cuban intelligence down in the lobby of the hotel right now, working to essentially try to round us up and potentially imprison us or make it so we cannot leave Cuba.
I don't know, Nick. Maybe it wasn't a great idea to use your journalistic activities in Cuba. And now you're scared you might get kidnapped. Oh well, this kid is as sharp as a balloon. Not the sharpest tool in the shed. Well, we know what your side says, Nick. Just pull yourself up by the bootstraps. I'm sure you're gonna figure it out. Guys, tell me what you think about Nick here in the comments. And if you haven't followed me yet, please do. Have a day!
So, lobotomy victim Nick Shirley was in Cuba recently, where he said Cuban spies were trying to round him up and hold him hostage. And the situation was so desperate that he had to stop and make a 13-minute video about it before escaping.
We're about a mile and a half away from the U.S. Embassy right now, which could be our possible way out of this situation by going to the embassy. However, that does not stop Cubans from stopping us before we get to the embassy. It's about a mile and a half away, so we have to make it to the embassy. Right now there's 3 essentially Cuban spies down at the bottom of our hotel right now.
I genuinely do not understand how this kid made it past the 3rd grade. Brother, how are they Cuban spies if they're Cuban people in Cuba? You're the one in their country. A Cuban spy would be someone who comes to America to gather intelligence. And of course, nobody took him hostage. He's back in America now, safe and sound. Like, bro, they were never gonna capture you there. If anything, they were just gonna deport you back to America, which you should love. Don't you love deportations? You're in their country advocating openly for the overthrow of their government. If there was some Somali guy in America saying that Trump should be overthrown, I guarantee you would want him deported.
And then right now you have Trump even saying that he might have the pleasure of taking Cuba. And Marco Rubio, obviously, he has even said openly that he doesn't think a regime change would be bad, which it wouldn't. Look what's happening right now because of communism.
Oh my god, he almost said Marco Cubio. That would have been hilarious. And what's wild to me is that here he says Cuba's struggles are because of communism, but earlier in the video, he admits that it's because of the U.S. embargo.
Right now, there's a big problem taking place here in Cuba, the largest humanitarian crisis they've had in maybe 50 years. And there's no oil or gas due to the blockade after Trump and the United States took over and captured Maduro. So Venezuela is no longer supporting Cuba with any oil or gas, and that also affects everything that they have, essentially, between whether it be the food or from it being the light and the power shortages here, or just the gas alone. You have no power here, essentially, because the United States and Cuba, they do not like each other. There's been an embargo since the 1960s here, where...
All right, so there you have it. You know, do the people think that Nick did his thing? I don't know, but there you go. All I can do is just deliver what I see. You know what I'm saying? I'm just doing my part over here. Tanks Talk TV 1 and giving you the raw, honest, and trying to be happy as news as I can. But however,